It is some 15 minutes to the hour 6. Tonight on the campaign trail, my guest is a specialist in public policy, political economics, and developmental politics. She now wears another hat as the spokesperson for the NDC's policies on business developments. You certainly would be interested in this conversation happening in the next few minutes. My guest, Hajia Sajida Shiraz, has already taken her seat in the studios. Remember, we are live on Facebook, on Star 103.5 FM. And you can get interactive with us on our WhatsApp via 055 288 0216. Again, 055 288 0216. This is your campaign trail. Thank you very much for still staying with us on Star today. Now, before we sit for the conversation, let's take you to the camp of the NDC where its flag bearer, John Dramani Mahama, has promised to address key challenges facing the people of the Atibubu municipality and nearby communities. These challenges include low voltage electricity, lack of access to potable water, and poor healthcare services. The former president made this commitment during his visit to the area as part of his 4-day campaign tour in the Bono East region, aiming to appeal to voters ahead of the upcoming December 7 general elections. My colleague Abdul Hanan Adam reports.
For years, residents and businesses in Atibubu municipality in the Bono East region have been dealing with low voltage electricity, a problem that has impacted their economic and social lives. During his campaign tour, the NDC flag bearer John Dramani Mahama highlighted the electricity challenges in rural areas with economic potentials. Speaking during a mini deba at Atibubu Amanten, the former president pledged that if elected, his administration will prioritize resolving the low voltage issue by implementing measures to ensure a stable and reliable power supply for all.
From Atibubu through Yeji, all the way to Bimbila, Yendi, all that place has low voltage because all the substations are in the center. There are no substations on the eastern part. And so it's something that we have taken note of. When NDC comes, we're going to put substations on the eastern corridor so that it will raise your voltage and make your electricity more stable.
On the issue of water, John Mahama underscored the urgency of expanding access to clean and potable water.
Say yeba small town water systems. Now, more small town water systems are chrono any chain in Siono. Yebe upgrade small town water system no. Send a beya and Siono bedoso ama obien bianom. Into a table book and Yebe sa and Sio ejumano. Send a beya obia ewa table ha any empotem any krokra asarandi a table. Benya unsupa anom.
Regarding healthcare, Mahama acknowledged the difficulties many Ghanaians face in obtaining affordable and reliable healthcare, particularly in remote areas. He announced that plans are already in motion to provide more medical resources to the Atibubu Government Hospital.
Meba zongo hine afashebi and maternity ward asemno ebaye. I just say oni MP na the two menim and me say nyame oho. Yedi yenumo nyambe tachi yenka se ye train ama mwatu abama ye ansana yabetimi abwa yenim se ebi mo se jese oto abama omo ansana omo ba ne ompese omo ye no na omo abeye yesu de yen train sa enti kakra mede mensa meto mensa enfre akukudamfo bi a menim se omoboto mu edo kakra ena mejeje kakra mede ka ho ena kakra yapagya maternity ward nesi ho.
Meanwhile, the former president in his address called on all Ghanaians to support his vision for a better Ghana, promising a government that will listen, act, and deliver on these critical issues. Reporting for GH1 News and Star FM, Abdulhanan Adam, Atebobo Amantin.
My colleague Abdul Hanan Adam with that report there. Away from the NDC, let's go to the camp of the New Patriotic Party. And the flag bearer of that party, Dr. Mahmoud Baumia, says his decision to focus on digitalization is due to the enormous benefits it has in solving many of the economic challenges confronting the country. According to him, he has not run away from the economy, saying digitalization will help it rather than shaping it. He was speaking during a stakeholder engagement as part of his campaign tour of the Tema Central, West, and East constituencies.
His campaign in the Tema enclave took him to Tema Central, West, and East constituencies, where he interacted with mechanics and traders, held stakeholder engagements, and addressed community connect rallies in the three constituencies. At the stakeholder engagement attended by the clergy, traditional rulers, and the business community in Tema Central, the MPP flag bearer explained why he has decided to focus on digitalization. According to him, those who mock him for choosing that path do not understand the importance of digitalization to a strong economy.
Many economic problems can be solved with digitalization, but many people didn't quite understand it. They thought I was abandoning economics to go and do digitalization.
Responding to concerns from freight forwarders about high taxes imposed on clearing goods from the ports, Dr. Baumia reiterated his desire to change the duty system at the harbour to make things cheaper for them.
I've been thinking about it, and I want us to move to a flat duty system so that in cities, so that we can have predictability. Because if there is no predictability in the rate of duty at the port, there will be no predictability in the price of goods in the markets.
At the Community Connect later in the night in the Tema East constituency, which attracted scores of NPP supporters, Dr. Baumia asked them to give him a chance to make the country better. The flag bearer is expected to continue his tour of the Greater Accra region in the Medina and Adentan constituencies on Friday, 6 September 2024.
That was my colleague Musa Lansa with the reports there. And as I told you earlier, my guest is seated, Hajia, Sajida, Shiraz. It's an absolute pleasure to host you, and it's your first time granting interviews in studio.
Yes.
So we are happy that it happens to be our studio.
Thank you very much, Tutuwaa. I'm a huge fan.
Thank
It's
you.
a pleasure of mine to be here.
Thank you very much, Hajia. I know you want us to talk about your policy, the NDC's policies with regards to taxation and how to make the business community better. But I want to find out from you, do you think that digitalization is the way to go in terms of addressing challenges of businessmen in the country?
Well, I would pivot a little. When he was addressing the comments, one of the key things he talked about was the high duty taxes that feed forwarders were alluding to. So digitalization within the context of high import charges, high taxation, it's supposed to be a context, a macroeconomic context within which things work. So if you keep parroting digitalization and other things are not functional, then I think we have a problem.
Okay.
Yes, please.
That's problematic. I see. Yeah. Let me come to you. The NDC in its manifesto promised a lot of tax exemptions. For instance, the COVID levy, the emissions levy, the e-levy. Tell us, what informed that decision?
So, in putting together the NDC manifesto, the lab, which doubles as the manifesto secretariat, empaneled a team of experts from across different sectors. So with regards to the business development sector, we had people from businesses, we have people from the public services, we had policy makers, we had market women, we had people whose lived experience is doing business, and we had people who had tried to set up businesses, but because of the challenges in the environment, they were unable to. So after years of extensive conversation back and forth, we addressed some key challenges to business development in Ghana.
Okay.
The first was access to financing. And this was within the context of the broader picture of the macroeconomic environment in which lending rates were very high. Right now, it hovers around 35%. It was within the context of high taxes. We have the COVID, we have the emissions, we have the e-levy, which has just made digital transactions very painful to do, to put it simply. So it was within this context that the team decided to put together some sets of policies to address the challenges with access to financing, challenges with access to markets, address human capital and skills deficits, and also try to streamline the regulatory environment to make it easy for businesses to operate.
And you think that when you decide to take away some of these taxes, the lending rates will reduce? Is that what you found?
I'm not directly tying it into the lending rates, but let me just go with
imagery. But I think it's one of the issues that a lot of businessmen complain about, because access to financing, as you said, most of them access loans from banks and other financial institutions, and so they always complain about the lending rates.
35% is unimaginable. But you are asking if directly to ease hardship. I like to invoke imagery.
Okay.
Consider taxes burdens. You have the e-levy, that's one burden. You have the COVID levy, emissions tax. So the more and more we burden businesses, the more they struggle under the yoke of, or the weight of this taxes that we put on them. Again, we talked about the import charges, the numerous at the ports that you have to go through to get your goods cleared. So yeah, we believe that rationalization of import duties, for instance, and we believe that the immediate, as John Mama promised in his 120-day social contract, within 90 days of coming into office, he's going to scrap the e-levy, the COVID levy, and the emissions levy. We believe that will bring immediate relief to Ghanaian businesses.
I don't want to play the devil's advocate, but I believe you're well aware of the roles taxes play in society. If you are scrapping off all of these taxes, wouldn't it be detrimental to the development of the country?
Taxes is revenue mobilization. And then if you engage fully with the NDC manifesto, we have a section on scaling up revenue mobilization. And again, when we talk about rationalizing charges or rationalizing import duties, for instance, rationalization would have dual ends. One end would be making it more affordable for the business community, but the other end will be to plug the leakages that we currently have. So if taxes, for instance, was to come directly into governments rather than go to line people's pockets because they try to circumvent the system and charge lower to mitigate what they think are the hardships, we believe that we'll be able to scale up revenue mobilization.
So you don't think that it will be detrimental to the country?
We honestly don't think so. And of course, we have other revenue mobilization measures like the Operation Recover All Loot. We believe that if we were
you believe that will be a fruitful exercise?
I think it will be, but then today I would defer to the governance committee to deal with that.
When I was going through your manifesto, one thing that struck me was your plan for startups to be prevented from paying taxes for about 2 years, personal and then corporate tax. Why that decision?
I think it's very important. I don't know about you, but I have tried to set up several businesses, and the first thing you do is try to get regularized. And the way you get regularized is to get registered. First is the difficulty in just simply registering, because what you are trying to do essentially is to register to get recognized as a business in Ghana, and secondly, to pay taxes. So because of those difficulties, when you get, our promise is that when businesses get registered for the first 2 years, just think about institutionalizing, think about setting up. It takes a long time for any business venture, even any institution, to find its footing. So for the first 2 years, just breathe. And what's registering?
Isn't 2 years a long time to rationalize?
I don't think it is.
Regularize.
I don't think it is. I think 2 years is sample time, and 2 years is also supposed to incentivize their creation of businesses by young people. So it is targeted mostly towards young people. So in addition to it giving them breathing room, because we are promising some support services or some support interventions to facilitate access to financing, registering and being unafraid of taxation coming immediately after registering puts you on the list of businesses that can access the grants that we want to give businesses. So it is to encourage businesses to access the financing that we have and then to become profitable before they then give back to the state.
Okay. Now let's go back to accessing financial provisions, if I may put it that way. We have seen this new invention about Women's Bank.
Oh, yeah. One of my favorite policies.
Why do we need a Women's Bank?
So the conversation was about...
And I'm asking this because I haven't heard of a bank that refuses to give women money. Also, there was data from Maslow that sought to suggest that most of the benefactors of that loan policy were women. So why do we need a Women's Bank?
Well, like I said, before we put together these policies, we had a lot of conversations. And one of the things that came up strongly was the gendered barriers to accessing financing for women.
Tell me about it.
Yes, it is our belief that, one, we believe that women, outside of the access to financing, we believe that women are the nurturers and feeders of the economy. So even if it is just simply sort of as an affirmative action policy, some positive discrimination policy to support women-led businesses, because we understand fundamentally that when women businesses do well, the nation does well, our homes are better off because women-led businesses are doing well.
Okay.
And then the access to financing bits. Unfortunately, I don't have the data now to support that, but we know, or we have uncovered, that many women, because of some of the metrics, there are some standard requirements for accessing financing, and a lot of it, because of the historical economic imbalances, most women are unable to access it. They don't have collateral, for instance. The interest rates, 35% lending rates, we talked about it earlier, they are too much for us to put on women. So the Women's Bank was conceptualized to deal with these challenges, and it's supposed to be a women-led organization looking to fund women-led and women-headed organizations or businesses.
Okay.
Yes, and then to give them financing.
Okay. I mean, in the event that the NDC is able to do very little about the lending rates, for instance, how different will the Women's Bank be from the regular bank?
First of all, I don't expect that we'll do very little about the lending rates, because I am aware that we have a very solid fiscal and monetary team, and I know that our experts on the macroeconomy have identified really, really good strategies to fix, one, not just the lending rates, but the exchange rates as it prevails, now almost at 16 cedis or even above. The way it changes, I'm sure by the time I drove from my house to here, it possibly got higher. So I know that we have a very solid team working to fix that. So what I see,
I understand that you want to be very optimistic, but let's just, in the event that that doesn't happen, how different will the operations of the Women's Bank be from the ordinary bank? Will women be given loans without interest? I want to understand the operation.
The promise is that we are going to give low interest rates and very, very flexible terms. Like I said, we will not be that strict on collateral. All you need to be the basic criteria. Somebody asked me yesterday what the criteria for accessing funding from the Women's Bank is, and I said, well, first, just be a woman.
Okay.
And the second thing is be a woman with a dream.
Okay.
So we believe that within the bank, women-led, because there'll be conversations about what do you want to do, and then depending on the funding you seek to access, some women want as little as 500 cedis to set up businesses that will be profitable. Some, and we hope that as it goes on, as we give them more money, they scale up their businesses, and then based on that, we are able to support more women. But I am fairly optimistic, because I know the team as I do, that the new NDC government will be dealing with a fairly better macroeconomic environment.
I was going to ask you something, but I'll just skip and then we'll talk about Ejimira.
Okay, please.
What is Ejimira?
So the Ejimara is a business startup policy.
Okay.
The intention is that we are going to support the creation of at least 10,000 businesses annually. And not just the creation, we are going to provide mentoring support and tracking support. So all the support they will need to make them profitable as businesses under the Ejimara initiative.
10,000 businesses? Minimum?
Yes, please.
And maximum of what?
The sky is the limit.
You don't have a cap to that?
Of course, the more we can do, the better. So we like to state the bare minimum, that you can hold us to 10,000. But I'll be happy to sit here 2 years from now and report that we've done 1 million.
Is it feasible?
It is. And I'll have to say that everything that we have put out is backed by some technical team. Right now, our teams are even working out implementation plans, and at the right time, we intend to present to the Ghanaian people what the implementation and operational details are.
Okay.
But I assure you and your listeners today that it is feasible, and it is in our manifesto because we believe that it is one of the things we can do to reset Ghana and then to create jobs through business development.
Okay, and does this have any criteria, this Ejimara policy?
Well, it's targeted mostly for young people.
Young people who are in the formal or informal sector, literates or illiterates?
Young people, illiterates, young people of all
Caliber.
all demographics.
Okay.
Sorry, all, yes.
Okay.
All young people. And yeah.
Okay. Now, there's also this thing that I saw. You said you're going to review the Customs Act 2020 to scrap the law banning the importation of salvaged vehicles to save the local automotive industries. What informed this policy? I thought it was really interesting.
Our manifesto was a very inclusive process. We spoke to people from all walks of Ghana, and I remember us receiving several lobby groups from this industries who communicated to us that one thing that hampered their businesses, because they believe that even though some of these vehicles,
the salvage
vehicles, they believe even though they were salvaged, they still had some value to it, and they believe they could add value to it, and it could be profitable to them. So it was born out of conversations with industry players, and I believe that there's value to us scrapping the law for them.
But what about safety?
Well, of course, we'll have safety standards. It's important, and we'll have safety. So us scrapping the law doesn't mean that an incoming NDC government is going to be lax on safety standards. The safety of the Ghanaian people is important, the safety of the citizenry, and even the safety of the players. So again, we have very set operational details, and the team working on it at the right time would detail all that.
And the people at Salmon Magazine, Kokumpe, Abusiokai, were excited about it.
Of course. A lot of this came out of engagements with them, like I said. So we didn't sit in a boardroom and determine that this needed to be done. We met with the people, we went into the markets, we had conversations across the country, and then ended up with this set of policies. And among this is this because we believe that there's still value to some salvage vehicles.
Okay. I know that you may not be too abreast with agriculture, but I don't. Last week, I believe, the Minister for Food and Agriculture said that there was going to be a ban on exportation of grains for some time. But your policy does something different. You talk about exports in there. What do you make of that policy by the Agri Minister?
Did he say imports or exports?
Exports.
The ban, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I can understand that in the context of the food insecurity we have, and it speaks to the situation that we have if we are so scared of our food sufficiency that we have to ban exports. Then that just shows that we have work to do within the sector. What we are promising to do is to scale up production.
Under the Ghana exports policy?
Not the Ghana. So the Ghana
exports. I want to understand what your policy about the exports Ghana policy is about.
Okay, so export Ghana policy is our policy to scale up exports of Ghanaian goods and services. So what we are hoping to do with the policies we have in place, including the 24-hour economy, where we anticipate that we are going to have increased production in agri and manufacturing, and in even the creative economy. What we are hoping to do is that we'll be so self-sufficient that we'll have enough to export to other countries. Yes. So I believe that under the next NDC government, we will, based on the steps I have seen, we will have food sufficiency, and then that we won't have a problem with our domestic production, and then we'll be able to export. I'm sure you can read about
in essence, I'm getting that you'd want to increase made in Ghana stuff.
Yes.
Okay.
Not made in Ghana stuff. Okay, made in Ghana stuff qualifies, yes. But what we are essentially trying to do is increase production.
Okay.
Domestic production, first to be sure that we ourselves, we are self-sufficient. And by our Made in Ghana policy, what we are trying to do is to promote patriotism or promote our own pride in what we produce locally. So what we propose to do under there was to, for instance, have government set the example of government being the largest spender, buying mostly Made in Ghana goods for officers. So, for instance, if this was a government building, this furnishing, for instance, would be made by
Also, your
Ghanaian
policy would favor just government agencies?
public officers.
Public officers.
Of course, we encourage private institutions to also join as part of their patriotic and civic duty to patronize Made in Ghana, but then we'll lead by example by having government leverage its spending power. To purchase Made in Ghana goods.
Are we not saying all of these things to excite people just to vote for the NDC?
No, we are not. And I tell you why I am saying we are not. Because I remember the difficult conversations, the conversations in light of the present economic realities and what the NDC can do and what it cannot do. And I tell you that all this you can see are very, very easy to do things. We are saying that we are scaling up production, and that with increased production, we want Ghanaians to buy Made in Ghana goods. That's fairly simple. We are saying after that, because of the increased production, we are going to facilitate exports. That's fairly easy. So I don't see any here that you say is so hyperbolic that you think that we made it out of, we put it out of the air just to get votes.
Okay, do you believe in Ghana Beyond Aid?
That's foreign policy, and I would...
Now, I just want to know, on a very surface level, do you believe in Ghana Beyond Aid?
I believe in Ghana's ability to be self-sufficient, but I believe also in the importance of strategic partnerships in helping us achieve that self-sufficiency and helping us to actualize our dreams as a nation. So
So to answer the question is yes or no?
No, not as it was operationalized by the MPP. And of course, if you are going to go into the details of what their foreign policy was, and then mark that against what they articulated it to be, you see that there are marked differences between what they said was going to be the Ghana Beyond Aid and what it was. So. Yes, I know.
And I'm asking that because there are several schools of thoughts that believe that by now we should have stopped importing certain things to do a lot more of exports. And I've seen that in your own manifesto. So I just want to know that if this policy is increased or and extended, are we going to see something like a Ghana Beyond Aid from the NDC?
It's not Ghana Beyond Aid. What we are going to see is a self-sufficient Ghana. What we are going to see is more pride in Ghana-made goods. What we are going to see is more successful businesses, because when we are talking about Made in Ghana goods, we are referring to businesses next door, businesses that we own. So everything that we hope to buy for government officers, for instance, is going to be produced in Ghana here by Ghanaians. So we are going to see the unemployment rate drop from the present 14.7% it is. We are going to see people, the 7.3 million people wallowing in abject poverty, as recently reported by the Ghana Statistical Service. We're going to see a lessening of that. Yes, of course. So I believe that we will see a more sufficient Ghana, but again, would also, because I know we'll be leveraging, for instance, on the African Free Trade Continental Agreement and other trade agreements, I do not want to articulate a position that suggests that we'll be doing this in isolation and that we'll be doing so much protectionism that will not be strategic with our partnerships with our neighbors.
Now, when the NDC says that it will be leveraging green technologies for entrepreneurship, what exactly does it seek to do?
So green technologies, as we know, is in. We've seen e-vehicles. We've seen AI, artificial intelligence, for instance. We've seen basically an optimization in the way we do things based on technology. So what we are saying is that technology would be central to what we are doing, and then we would be progressive in the way we go about creating businesses for the Ghanaian.
When you say progressive, in what regard?
Progressive would be open-minded, would go with the flow of the world. Yes, would change with the times. If the times say electric vehicles, electric tricycles, electric bicycles maybe, will go along with all those. The goal in the end is to lessen the current unemployment rate, and to make businesses profitable for the Ghanaian people.
Okay. What will be your assessment of the current transportation industry in the country?
Transportation. Okay, so transportation, we know we could definitely do better with.
In what regard?
One, is very expensive. One, to drive in Accra, the fuel cost is astronomical. It is very expensive to, if you don't have a car, to Uber, to pick public transportation. And the congestion in Accra is quite a lot. Yes, so what we are hoping to do with our 24-hour economy policy, for instance, is to scale up transportation and ensure that it runs 24/7 if possible.
But transport services run 24/7, especially with some of churches and taxis.
Of course it does, but that's why it says scale up.
Okay.
Yes. So
in what regard?
So for instance, if logistics were moving throughout the day and it could move in the night, that would be so. I don't like in other parts of the world. You have effective train systems that move 24/7. You come out and you can plan your journey using your Google Maps, and you know where to access transport services, and where you can go and where you can't go. So again, I think that we all know it can be better. It shouldn't take you, and in keeping with the times, like I said, a lot of the things we are doing, even with the 24-hour economy, is to leverage technology. So there will be a lot of virtual work where possible. So the traffic flows in and out of town, for instance, will be better managed. Again, I would like to defer to the technical team working on that, so I do not overstep.
Okay.
But yeah, I know that we are working on transportation and making it better.
This country has been quite ambitious with regards to transportation by introducing something like the Sky Train. What does the NDC make of the Sky Train?
The Sky Train in theory is, if they are able to pull it off, who wouldn't want a Sky Train?
Are we ready for a Sky Train?
I would travel across the world to see one, but again, let's see how it is operationalized.
So do you think the NPP was overly ambitious with our policy?
I think the MPP was many things with many other policies. It's, for instance, exchange rates. We heard the thing about the fundamentals of the economy being weak and the exchange rates exposing you. And at that time, we were at 4 Ghana cedis to $1. We are at 16 now. So the MPP says a lot of things, and Ghanaians have learned to take that with a pinch of salt. So again, when they promise Sky Trains, walking helicopters, we wait to see how that is done.
Okay. They also promised that STC buses will go digital. Did you hear of that?
STC buses will. I do remember the Ayalolo buses. They were there a few years ago.
Okay.
And the narrative then was that they were digital. But then what has happened to all of those? So,
but what is the NDC's plan for the Ayalolo buses? Are we going to leave them to rot?
NDC, I know, I'm very careful because I'm the designated spokesperson for business development. But I'm very careful to not attempt to communicate and then not do a good job of communicating the other sectors.
I believe you sat in those meetings. You had deliberations.
Of course, but some people have, and it is just important to state that some people have better expertise in some areas than I do, and I don't want to come here with a know-it-all mentality and attempt to speak to all aspects of the manifesto.
Okay.
Yes, but I do know that there is a detailed plan, not just for the Ayalolo buses, but to mitigate challenges related to transportation across the country.
So in putting up this manifesto, and I'm just reading from your manifesto, I'm really not getting questions from anywhere.
That's fine.
You say that enhance transportation and logistics services within the country and sub-region. Let's talk about aviation.
Okay.
People have had issues with local aviation. Have you heard those concerns?
I'll be happy if you share what the concerns are.
Oh, for instance, you have been flying a lot, Echo. You know some of the concerns with the aviation industry. People, for instance, and I in no way want to disrespect Passion Air, but there's a lot of dissatisfaction towards Passion Air, for instance. Have you heard some of these concerns? I've even seen very funny tweets on social media where they say, oh, it is trotro in the air.
I appreciate.
So in your bid to enhance transportation, what happens to the aviation sector? What is the plan for the aviation sector?
As a representative of the Business Development Committee, I have to look at Passion Air as more than an aviation business, an aviation company which provides flights. I have to look at it as a business that creates jobs for Ghanaian people and think about what it does, the role it plays in mitigating the unemployment rate in the country.
Okay.
So, of course, like any flyer, we've had challenges with many airlines. I have never had any specific issue to do with Passion, so I'll not be. It would be unfair.
It's not even about them. Yeah. I don't even want to make them the case study for this, but
yes,
there have been issues with local aviation.
Of course.
What is the NDC's plan as part of enhancing transportation in the country?
So right now, the biggest issue I can tell you, I was supposed to be in Tamale to support the launch of the campaign of the former minority leader, Haruna Idrisu. I'm unable to make it because I simply cannot afford the ticket to Tamale. It is too expensive. Something that used to be like 500 cedis, 10,000 cedis return. Now you have to cough up about 4,000 cedis to make a return trip. So what I identify first as one of the challenges is the high ticket prices. But again, what we hope to do in making the business environment friendly and in attracting foreign direct investments is that we'll get a lot more competition in the aviation space. So if we're able to attract more airlines into the country, for instance, it's demand and supply, basic economics.
Talking about attracting more airlines, do we need more airports?
We are promising that.
We have seen how dormant the whole airport has been.
Which of the airports?
Whole airports.
Whole airports. Yeah. So yes, so we are going to make it an aviation trading hub.
But do we even need to fly to Hull? I think that is the question a lot of people have been asking.
I think it is important. Every community, and in future we hope that it is expanded just beyond Hull. Every community needs to have accessible transportation options. If you want to fly, it's your prerogative. Even if you are flying just for the view, it should be your prerogative to access. If you want to fly to my hometown, for instance, Savelugu, you should be. So we hope as we grow that every city, every town would have some hub and some aviation hub where people can fly to. So I think that there's nothing. I think it's a great thing that we have airports.
But people have argued that the whole airports, for instance, has been nothing but a liability because initially the operations were 3 times a week. It was reduced to 2 times a week. It was brought to Fridays only, and now nothing.
Again, I can understand. Like I said, the high ticket cost. If I was flying, and a journey that would take me 30 minutes by flight, maybe 4 hours via car, and I have to pay 10 times the cost of my transportation.
Right.
It's just smart economics to want to drive.
Okay.
So I think that the issues with aviation are larger than just the question of if we need the airports or not. I think what we need to do is how do we make flying more affordable for the average Ghanaian? How do we make people, how do we make transportation generally, moving around the country, affordable for the Ghanaian people? And for us, the way we try to do is to catalyze the creation of businesses for job creation.
So when there are more jobs created, people will not have issues buying plane tickets?
Of course. You have more income, and then you should be able to afford anything you want to do.
A call.
He's employed already, so that explains why he flies so much.
Oh. I see. Now, I'm asking about the airport because, the NPP has also promised an airport in Cape Coast. And given the example in Hull, do we need one in Cape Coast? The NDC is also promising to construct another one in one of the regions. I cannot recall at the moment.
Again, like I say, I am of the view that airports are a good thing. But if history is anything to go by, we are all very, very, right now, cynical of any promise the NPP makes.
Okay.
So
you think that we can trust promises the NDC makes?
Because we at least have a track record of keeping to our promises, and at least some honesty in admitting when we know we are wrong, that we don't pretend to not be part of the teams that have taking the lead on trying to find effects. If you are unable to find effects, you communicate to the people that give you the mandate that, hey, this is different from how I anticipated, and these are the realities. You come clean, you come honest, but you don't shirk responsibility and try to run away from what your role is in creating the mess that is.
I understand. So we need a Cape Coast airports, right?
We need as many. In fact, I'm advocating now for a Savelugu airport.
I see. Let's now talk about the 24-hour economy.
Okay.
When this policy was first publicized, or we got to find out about it, there were people that raised concerns about security. How will the NDC make security provisions? Because it says that we needed about 250,000 more security personnel to ensure that this policy is implemented. How prepared is the NDC to roll out the 24-hour economy?
Very, very prepared, and as articulated by President Mahama, the 24-hour economy secretariat will sit directly under his office. That shows how committed he is, or how intentional he is about the proper rollout of the program. And with regards to the provision of security services, this is one of the key imperatives of the 24-hour economy. So I know that our team is currently working on a gap analysis, public sector gap analysis, and that includes what we need, what the shortfalls are in areas like security, in areas of public employment generally. So I know that there are very intentional steps being taken, and that's within 9, it's in a 120-day social contract. Unless within the first 4 months, there'll be very, very clear operational guidelines and rollout of the 24-hour economic policy.
Okay. During your manifesto launch, your flag bearer said something really interesting that's excited some people, but some people thought it was ridiculous. He said that clubs would be running 24/7. Did that thing excite you?
I've seen a bastardization of what the 24-hour economy means, because a lot of people that was of course that's true, but of course was set in a light-hearted manner to bring attention to the ways in which the 24-hour economy would operate. I'm all for clubs operating 24 hours, because clubs are a part of the creative economy, and then again our team in culture, arts, and tourism.
Okay.
See, we all know about Dirty December, and Ghana very increasingly, we believe, can become the party capital of the sub-region.
Okay, let's take a few seconds break, and so I can take some comments on social media.
Please.
I have Omusko Ganiyu. He says the monitoring from Bono Region Singane, nice presentation and good job. Next MP for Savelugu constituency. Savelugu constituents are blessed. Hajia Dr. Sajida Shiraz. You do all. Okay, Abubakari Baba Petro says that watching you live from Savelugu, Pag Dede. I'm not too sure what that means.
Pag Dede.
Pag Dede. What is that?
Well, good woman.
That's what it means in your language. Pag Dede.
Yeah.
A. I
It means
see.
more than that. It's more nuanced, actually, when you say it in Lebanese.
Okay. Adam Salifu Mohammed says that Hajia Sajida Shiraz, the Iron Lady, Savelugu constituency is so blessed to have you. You are so exceptional. You are really... Oh, I'm losing that comments there. Okay, I'll come back to it. But you are promising a cheaper and reliable power supply. I don't know if you've paid attention to what has been happening with the energy sector in recent times, where people have had to protest because they believe that the new meters being given by the ECG is overburdening them financially. So when you say that you are promising cheaper and reliable power supply, what exactly do you mean?
Again, when it comes to technical areas like energy, I like to defer to the sectors themselves.
Okay.
But what I know is that we are promising time of use tariffs depending on the time of day. So the tariff system will be calibrated to have peak and off-peak. It will be calibrated according to peak and off-peak seasons. And then if you are operating within the orbit of the 24-hour economy, you have access to affordable power.
How? Explain to a layman how this will work.
So, for instance, let me see how much more I can dump. So, for instance, if I was doing processing, or if I was doing, let's say I was producing...
But would it be cheaper for just commercial users?
Yes, but then I know our energy team has a broader plan for making energy itself affordable for the ordinary users, including individuals and households. But within the orbit of the 24-hour economy, because we want to incentivize production, we want to incentivize the growth of businesses, especially operating. If I was using industrial machines throughout the night, it would cost me less to use within that shift than it will if I was doing peak day where everybody. So within the 8 hours that we know as the standard work hours, we expect a lot of traffic because a lot of industries are operating.
Okay.
But for those that elect to do the three shift system, it means that they can play with their productions and put it in times when the traffic is not so high. So based on that, we can give them affordable time of use tariffs, which will bring their production costs really low.
So Lifeline users were not considered.
What do you mean Lifeline users?
For electricity supply, for instance.
You said Lifeline users.
Yes.
Everyone was considered. For electricity. So
okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So again, they are very, very detailed plans.
But you'd rather stick to the experts.
Yes, of course, on energy.
Okay.
I'm sure if Professor Kabza was here or Honorable Jinapo, they will lay out what the technicalities are in relation to the megawatts of power. And but what I know is that they are very, very concrete promises, not just for businesses, but for ordinary Ghanaians on making power affordable. Okay. We all have homes, we all run homes, and we know how costly power is.
Okay. We are wrapping up shortly, but I want to understand, since you are creating a women's bank, what happens to the other banks that lost their licenses?
Oh, so under fiscal policy, again, not my sector, but it's as part of the broad plans to reset the economy. Under fiscal policies, there's going to be a forensic audit of the banking sector cleanup, and then the promises that all the banks who lost their licenses, if they are determined to have lost it unfairly, would be restored. Okay. So that's the promise.
Okay. Are we seeing you contest in the Savaligu constituency in 2027?
It's still 2024, and then I am solidly behind our candidates, Honorable Jacob Abdullahi Umbiangpang. So 2027 is a conversation for another day. But right now, I'm Team Umbiangpang.
You haven't dreamt of representing Savaligu someday? Because you see, based on the comments I read, that people love you.
I wouldn't say I haven't dreamed, because I want to inspire every young girl who possibly listen, every woman to seek higher offers. We want to balance the representation. We want a critical mass of women in politics.
Right.
So of course I'll put myself up any day, because you can't keep advocating for women to do it when you don't put yourself up. Okay. But right now, I am the candidate that we have elected to lead us in Savaligu is Honorable Umbiangpang, and my support is for him 100%.
Okay, in 2027, we ourselves will lead the campaign. Thank you very much for coming. I've been engaging Hajia Sajida Shiraz. She's the NDC spokesperson on business development, trade, and industry. And that is how we end the campaign trail on Start Today.